and welcome. Today's guest is truly the embodiment of resilience and redemption. After navigating trauma, abuse, drugs, gangs, and even San Quentin prison, he has risen to become an industry leader, sought after speaker, mentor, coach, and corporate trainer. He studied behavioral psychology at Stanford University, is a certified mental health training and intervention coach, and is the author of the book, Heal the Boy and the Man Will Appear. This man is truly an inspiration. Please welcome Raul Lopez. Welcome, Raul. It is so great to have you here.
Thank you. That was a wonderful introduction. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Well, you have certainly been through it. You have certainly overcome a tremendous amount of challenges in your life, and to be where you are now, to be such an inspiration, to be a voice of empowerment and possibility and opportunity. Um, it's really, really amazing. So thank you for all that you do. Um, Tell us why it is so important to you to be this force for good, to help so many.
Thank you so much for all of that. I've learned over the years that this force comes as you said force of nature, and I want to say that it's a natural coming. We experience things in life, and I've learned that life happens for us, not so much to us. And so everything that I've experienced and been through, when I started to switch around and made a decision to figure out my life and change my life, the first thing that came to me, I believe from up above, was I needed to go share this information. I need to help other people because people are now going through what I survived. So it's just I'm passionate about going out and helping people understand some of the things that I didn't understand and learn some of these things and come to the next level themselves. And honestly, to encourage them to go out and do the same thing that I do, help other people.
Yeah, absolutely. So take us back to some of those pivotal moments, some of those things that happened for you,
Mhm.
not to you, that actually have shaped you to be the person that you are, and to have this mission and this message.
Sure. The primary going all the way back. I go to go all the way back, and it's what my book is about. Heal the boy, and the man will appear. Is childhood trauma. So at the age of 7, I was torn apart from my father, who I was very close with. I was basically kidnapped from him by my mother. Uh, we had our family, my mother, my father, I had a couple of siblings. My mother came to the marriage with 2 kids, and my father came with one, and then together they had me. And we had this his and hers family together, and we had a great time. And one day my mother came home and she said, "Son, let's go for a ride." And she put me on a plane and took me to Alaska from California. At the age of 7, I got to Alaska. It was exciting. I was on an airplane for a while. Got to Alaska. I was in the snow. That was fun. And then I asked, "Where's my dad? Where's my daddy?" And she said, "Don't worry about your daddy. You're not going to see him again." And it was an instant shift that I didn't understand at the time, but it changed my entire life. So looking back, some of these things I'm going to tell you, I learned looking back. That was childhood trauma. That was a trauma for me. There was a lot of different emotions that kids don't understand. There was pain, there was confusion, there was sadness, there was heartbreak. There's just all these emotions going through this little 7-year-old body who prior to that day only knew happiness, joy, and fun. That's what kids are, their love, their light, their joy, and they play and have fun every day, and the world is theirs. But my childhood ended that day. And I started going through depressions and anxieties and just living in this fog. And it just led me on this wild path for the next, from 7 until I was about 24 years old. And so what happened from that age of 7 is by 9, I was already on drugs. At the age of 13, I conceived my first child. And then at the age of 14, I got incarcerated. From the age of 14 to the age of 24, I spent the majority of those 10 years in some type of a facility. getting out of San Quentin prison when I was 24 years old. During those times of all that wildness, living in a fog, not understanding why I was feeling the way I was feeling, acting the way I was acting, or doing the things that I was doing, I got myself in a lot of trouble. I had those questions. Why do I feel this way? Why do I act this way? Why do I do these things? During my time in San Quentin prison, there were those questions, and I decided that there had to be more than life. And I made a decision to change, and I started seeking more. When I got out of prison, I moved from the area that I lived in, and I started going to college. Um, and I discovered psychology 101. Psychology 101 answers those three questions that I
Yeah.
just gave you. And it changed my life. I saw the answer to these questions. If you've experienced this in your life, you might do this. If you've done this in your life, you might act like that. And it literally answered those three questions. So I went on this journey of trying to figure out or learn more about me, myself, the mind, the body, the spirit. So as I went on this journey, I discovered so many psychological, how do I say it? I discovered that our mind is psychological. Obviously, our body is biological. So what we think, what we eat, our experiences in life, it all creates the life that we have. When I discovered those things, like I had said earlier, the first thing I felt I needed to do was to go back and help kids that were incarcerated, because I didn't want them to end up where I had ended up. So ever since then, I've been on this journey of just helping people understand some of the things that I've learned. And the hardcore passion that I have is a God-given burden, I call it. And that burden is to help parents now with some of the stuff that I'm teaching, because most adults don't understand the stuff that I'm talking about. So if I can teach the parents, they'll automatically teach their kids, and it'll be a generational change.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to circle back a little bit to heal the boy and the man will appear.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Not only is that a profound book title, but wow. I think so many mental health programs, so many coaching programs, so many empowerment programs focus on women.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things that resonates so strongly with your message and with what you do is how many other little boys out there have had trauma
Mm-hmm.
that didn't recognize it as trauma, or how many other little boys out there are in single parent households, and they don't understand why they're doing what they're doing. They don't understand the thoughts that they're having, or the emotions that they're having, or the biochemical responses
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
are happening in their body. And then carrying the confusion, carrying the trauma, carrying the paradigms and the beliefs and the limiting beliefs with them throughout life. So I absolutely love that you are providing this powerful space for discovery,
Mm-hmm.
a powerful space for healing, a powerful space for reflection and growth. Not only with males in particular, not only with youth, but also with their parents.
Yeah.
I love that you're cultivating these communities to really help boys and men understand, because as much as we women want to help, I don't know what it's like to be a little boy who was taken from his father. I don't know what that feels like. I don't know what it feels like to have all of the conflicting thoughts and feelings and emotions and beliefs with the male physiology and the male biochemistry.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for the spotlight that you put on that and the communities that you build. And then of course, now the book that you've written on it,
Mm.
so profound.
Thank you. The title of the book, "Heal the Boy and the Man Will Appear," is actually a personal experience that I've had. The subtitle is learn the importance of understanding and expressing your emotions, because I also have learned over the years that the majority of the trouble that I got into really was out of rage. I carried this rage within me, and I lived in this fog. And when I learned that energy is emotion, emotion, energy, in motion, then I realized and learned that uh, all energy has to be expressed, it has to expand, right? And the example I always give people is, if you're watching your favorite sports team, football, whatever it is, and the team scores, you'll naturally celebrate. Oh, yay. And you'll jump up and down. It's almost impossible, if you have a favorite team or a favorite singer or whatever you're watching and they're doing really well, to just sit there and just stare at them, because it's an energy, right? Joy, happiness, excitement. It's an energy. But so is anger. So is sadness. These are also energies, and they're dark energies. But what we do, sadly, for so many of us, is when somebody makes us angry or does something wrong to us or something happens, we hold it in. And if energy has to be expressed and you hold it in, you're going to build it up. It will build up. And at some point, that's where it explodes. And that's where the rage comes from. So do you ever see people that are just quick to anger,
Yeah.
really fast to anger? It's because they're carrying so much inside of them and they don't express that energy, the emotions that they're carrying. And those were a lot of the challenges that I had. So just even that often will help a child, like, express your emotions. If we teach the adults this, and the adults teach their kids, like, tell me, how are you feeling? What is happening? And oddly enough, funny enough, amazingly enough, I learned how to express my emotions in my late 20s, not until I was in my late 20s. And I learned from my daughter's daycare. I watched them help her and explain to
Mm.
her, have her explain why she was crying and why she was upset. And I was watching this and I was like, I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah.
But I saw her go from crying and upset to answering their questions and expressing why she felt the way she did, and then being completely calm.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, we can all do that. Instead of just being angry and mad and exploding, if we know how to express our emotions, the other side, or the subtitle to my book, it's powerful. It's a powerful for us, and it's a powerful lesson to teach others.
Absolutely. I mean, a basic human need that we have, right, is to be seen, to
Mhm.
be heard,
Yeah.
to be supported, right? These are basic human needs, and so how powerful to start honing those skills and creating that space, the space to be seen, the space to be heard,
Mhm.
the space to use your voice, to be able to speak up in a safe way,
Yeah.
um, to not only teach others how to do that, but then you create these magical communities. I mean, you have your communities,
Yeah.
you have all the mentorship that you do. I mean, you're really a master at going into these situations and creating a safe, supportive community of exploration and expression.
Mhm.
So, when you are first uh, going into a prison or going into juvenile hall or going into maybe a church community, and you're starting to work with men early in their own journey,
Mhm.
and they have not yet learned to identify what they're thinking or feeling, and they have not yet learned to express what they're thinking and feeling. um, when you meet that initial resistance that they might have to the process, how do you break through that? And what is the first step that you provide for them uh,
Mm.
to unlock their voice, to unlock their emotions?
Okay, I love that's a great question, and I remember dealing with that different situations. Everybody is an individual, obviously, but I remember when I learned all of these things for myself. In my late 20s, and I started going and teaching, working with kids for the most part in the beginning. I wanted them to just receive everything that I would give them. Here, now you're better, right? That's how I felt like what was going to happen is, here's all this stuff that I didn't know. I'm going to give it to you. Now you know it, and you can change your life right now. Unfortunately, I also believe in, and I forget whose quote it is, but they said the teacher will appear when the student is ready. And when I heard that, I think back to even at a young age when I was getting in a lot of trouble and I was lost, and my mother was trying to. She actually had a tape. This is back in the '80s. She had a tape of Tony Robbins, a cassette tape in the
Yeah.
car, and she was playing Tony Robbins. And at that age, I was young. I'm Hispanic, and I was in gangs and all these different things. And she was saying, "Listen to this guy. Listen to him talk." And I listened for half a minute, if that, and then I saw the cassette tape, and I looked at the picture of Tony Robbins. And if you see Tony Robbins in 1984, he was this, to me, he was this really weird looking guy, skinny, big head guy, and his hair was weird to me. And I just said, I don't want to hear this guy, and I threw the cassette away. I mean, I didn't listen; it was hers. I just threw it down. I didn't pay attention at all. Years later, many, many, many years later, I'm listening to Tony Robbins, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is amazing. I call my mom and I go, have you ever heard of Tony Robbins? And she's like, what are you talking about? I said, have you ever heard of Tony Robbins? This guy's amazing. And she was like, I told you about that guy way back. I was trying to let you know that he could help you and this and that. And I was like, oh wow. So the whole the teacher, I mean, yeah, the teacher will appear when the student is ready. I believe 100%.
Yeah.
Now, going back to your question with these kids, I would give them, I give them everything that I have. And some of it would fly right over their head because they weren't ready to receive it or they didn't understand it. Some of them would listen and understand. And a lot of them would take what I had and then they'd get out of juvenile hall because a lot of these kids I would work with for 6, 8 months while they were incarcerated. And then they'd get out of juvenile hall and I think everything was going to be great. And then they'd come right back.
Yeah.
And over the years, what I learned is I can help them and be in their environment while they were incarcerated. But when they left, they'd go right back to the environment that got them there in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. So I decided and understood that all I can do is plant seeds in these kids. I can give them this information that'll make them think, hopefully, about the stuff that we talked about. And they can see that, this guy who has been through where they're at now cares for them. So somebody cares for them. I'm giving them some core information that's a seed for them. And
Yeah.
I think, most of the time I go, you know what? I don't even care if these guys remember my name. And I work with girls in juvenile hall too. I don't care if they remember my name. All I want them to be able to do is go, you know what? Years ago, some guy told me this, and then let
Yeah.
that seed start to grow, right? Because honestly, I always say it's a God-given thing. I take my wisdom from my experience that happened for me and I pass it on. And it's not about me or my name, but it's more about that seed that's planted. And I remember myself. That's why I can imagine that in these kids. I remember myself going, I remember one time this guy told me this. I don't know
Yeah.
who it was, but that really helped me. And that's my goal is
Yeah.
to just plant these seeds because we're all on our own path, right? Of where we're supposed to be. And some of these kids I can help just like that. And some of them it's going to take a few years, but I think they'll get there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's seeing them, to your point.
Yeah.
It's showing them that somebody cares
Yeah.
because maybe you're the only person in their entire life up
Mhm.
until that point
Yeah. Yeah.
that has shown up consistently, that is there for them, that creates a safe space, that hears them and sees them, that is not there to judge them or tell them they're worthless or anything like that, but instead you're there to plant these seeds,
Mhm.
to cultivate possibility,
Yeah. Absolutely.
to cultivate awareness of what if?
Yeah. Yeah.
What if you could have a different life?
Mhm.
What if you could have a different experience of life
Mhm.
by dealing with your awareness and your emotions and all the things? What if you could make a different choice? I mean, you've referenced a couple of times in our time together that you made a decision.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
decided. And
Yeah.
Tony Robbins likes to say it is in the moments of decision that
Yes.
our destiny is shaped.
Exactly. Yep. I agree.
It's so powerful
Mhm.
to be able to make that decision,
Mhm.
but having better information, having better awareness, having these seeds that have been planted that when they start to sprout, allow you to make different decisions.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely, and decision is actually, as you know, a common word, but it's a powerful word because like Tony Robbins says, in the moment of decision, that's a powerful sentence because a decision. I've learned this, and a decision is never thought about again. If you make a decision to do something, and then you go do it, then you made that decision. If someone decides to go on a diet, many times I've gone on diets, and I say, I've decided I'm going to go on a diet and I'm not going to eat cake. And then there's a cake sitting in front of me, and I'm trying to decide again if I want to eat that cake or not. And then maybe I eat it. I didn't make a true decision. A
Yep.
true decision is in your core. It's in your heart, and there's no stopping. And I remember looking back, not even realizing I made a decision, right? I talk about how I look back and could see, right? I always talk about how you can look back and connect the dots. It's very hard to look forward and go, what's next? What do I do now? What's going to happen then? It's impossible. You got to look back and go, oh, I see why that happened. Oh, I see where I learned that from. So I always say that looking back, we figure things out. And so when I look back at the decision I made, I don't consciously remember going, I'm going to decide to change my life. I just remember going, there has to be more, and I'm not going to live like this anymore. So the decision I made subconsciously was, I got to go figure this out because there's no one around here that's going to help me except for me. And I went after it. So that's what the meaning of a decision is. It's a powerful word.
Absolutely. Once you decide, when you truly make that decision, it's a commitment. You are committing, and it's a there's no other option. You are burning the boats, you are burning the bridges.
Yeah.
You have decided, and that is the way it will be. You are now on that new path, or have taken that new action. And I think so many people are afraid to make a decision. They're
Mm-hmm.
afraid to make that
Yeah.
commitment to themselves, commitment to others. So step one, is always that awareness. Step two is going to be decide. Step three is commit. Step four is going to be take action.
Yes.
And it's so powerful because these are the steps that, in all the twists and turns of your journey and all the experiences that you've had, it boils down to those four things. You
Yeah.
were aware, you made a decision, you made a commitment,
Mm-hmm.
and you took action
100%.
on that.
Absolutely. And those are powerful, and those are all very difficult things to do. I mean, anybody who's watching this understand that those four things are not easy, but they are possible, right?
Yes.
And this is almost a cliche, but it's so true when people say, and I say it, if I could do it, you can do it. I hear people say that, when I was younger, I would hear people say that, and I go, everybody says that. And then I find myself saying it, and it's true. I mean, you mentioned my background. I've been through, I've just the life that I've lived is a wild life. Statistically, I'm dead or in prison right now, right? So when I say if I can do it, so can you, then that's 100,000% a fact that if I can do it, so can you. And it takes making that decision and taking action too. Those things you talked about. The commitment is powerful because looking back too, I remember in order for me to get out of the lifestyle that I had to move away from the environment that I was in. I mentioned that with the kids, they go right back in their environment. Whatever it was, and I always say it came from above. I had the intuition to go, I got to get out of here. I can't live here. I moved 200 miles away from where I lived, right? And I was forced to go to school by my parole officer, but it was a wonderful thing. So I ended up in college. And I just step by step, I just kept going. I kept taking the action. I had a commitment. Sometimes I didn't even know what to do next. I used to just walk around sometimes. And I would end up like in a church. I would walk around for miles, and I would always end up at the same church, and I would sit there. And interestingly enough, nothing ever happened when I would go there. I would just sit there because I don't know, for whatever reason, I felt like that's where I needed to be. But it was always moving forward. It was a commitment to changing my life. It was going to school every day after, not even graduating from high school. It was going to college every day. It was doing things I'd never done and just continuing to do that and feel uncomfortable doing it and waiting for an outcome. And, the outcome will come if you decide that things will change. They will change.
Absolutely. You don't have to know the path.
Yeah.
So many people say, well, I will take action when I know what to do. I
Yeah.
will take action when I know the path. I will take action when.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
action begets action, and
Yes.
action begets clarity, right? You take one step and then another, and then another, and then another. I mean,
Yeah.
we're on this journey called life. It
Mhm.
is a progression.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
the we're going to keep progressing until we're 6 feet under, right? So
Yeah.
it's a journey of progress. It's the magic is in the moments of the journey. The
Mm.
growth is in the moments and the experiences and the relationships of the journey. You
Yeah.
mentioned, taking uncomfortable action.
Yeah.
The growth is in those gaps, right? The
Yeah.
growth is in those moments of discomfort where you are constantly needing to choose you.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
constantly needing to make another decision to put right foot, then put left foot, then put
Mhm.
right foot, then put left foot. And you're constantly making that decision whether you're on track or you need to course correct. So
Yeah.
I love what you were saying, that you knew that the only way change was going to happen is if change happened. So you
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
to move away. You couldn't stay in the same community, in the same circumstances, because what got you there wasn't going to get you out of there. So I
100%.
I love that you recognize that, and
Yeah.
that you really stepped fully into, if I want my life to change, then my life has to change, and that includes the circumstances and the communities and your surroundings. I think something else that you mentioned is super important, so I want to make sure that it doesn't get lost, is
Okay.
that you went to school, you
Mhm.
started feeding your mind,
Yes. Yes.
and you started feeding your soul.
Mhm.
You didn't know why you always ended up in this church,
Yes.
but every single day you fed your mind and you fed your soul.
Mhm.
Tony Robbins likes to say, you have to stand guard at the gate of your mind.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you did that so incredibly powerfully.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's a powerful lesson. Uh, a common term, our quote is, "As a man thinketh, so shall he be." And it's in a lot of self-development books, but it actually comes out of the Bible.
Mhm.
The hallucination of it is it comes out of the Bible, and it's in every self-development book, not quoted. So I like to mention that it's out of the Bible. But the whole standing guard at your mind, it's important. The door of your mind, it's important because what we think about, and you touched on this earlier, what we think about most often is who we are and what creates our life. And our environment, who we hang around, is what's in our mind, and it's is who we are. Now, if we're not guarding the door of our mind, what happens within our mind that's there regularly, what we think about most sinks to our heart. And what's in our heart is who we are, is who we become. We don't have to stay that way, but we can change, but it is who we become. So when we pay very close attention to what we're thinking about, and we learn that we can control our thoughts and that we can calm our mind and choose what we want to think about and choose the life we want, that will sink into your heart, and then it'll automatically come, because that's who you will become. And that's the right way to do it.
Absolutely. So, piggybacking on that a little bit, who you become.
Mhm.
So many people are attached to their identity,
Yeah.
the identity of, you know, uh, their circumstances, the identity of their events that they've gone through, their identity of a label that society has put on them, or that their parents have put on them, or that they've put on themselves. What is how did you break free of the identity of your past circumstances, and how do you teach others to do the same?
So I pay a lot of attention. I paid a lot of attention, and I still do, to basic psychological conditioning. Right, our parents teach us what they know, what they were taught from birth. So it becomes a core value or a core understanding, or it's just who we believe that we are. So it's important to question why we think the way we think, why we do what we do, and why we act what we act, whether it be good or bad. I mean, we may have some thoughts and some actions that they're not a bad thing, but also, well, why do I do that?
To your point earlier, It's not that it's bad or good. It's just a matter of questioning, does this still serve me?
Yeah.
Is this something that I choose?
Yeah. No, I love that.
And
It's just something that I choose. Yeah.
yeah, is this something that I choose? And then from that place, you can again make a decision.
Yeah.
Is this something that I choose?
Yeah.
Does this continue to serve me?
Mhm.
Is this who I choose to be right now in this stage of my journey?
Yeah.
Is this empowering me to get to the next level of my journey, or the next goal that I have?
Mhm.
And then being able to use your voice to make the decision, to take the action, to seek the communities or the help that you need, to seek the
Yeah.
mentorship or the coaching that you need, in order to really be able to become the architect of a life that you love, right? A
Yeah.
conscious life where you are creating the experience that you want now, not the experience that you had as a child, not the
Mhm.
experience that you had going through other events and circumstances, but it's this magical thing that we get to decide in each and every moment.
That's so powerful. I love it. You mentioned paradigm a couple of times, and what you're talking about is so often we're stuck in these paradigms, and they can be good or bad, but often we're stuck in the paradigm of who we were taught to be. Right? I always say, remember who you were before society told you who to be, because
Exactly.
we're basically taught who to be. But the thing I learned about paradigms also is the worst thing about them is that we don't know that we're in them.
Yep.
We're in this paradigm and we don't know that we're in it, and we just think that's the way life is. So often people tell me that when I'm working with them, coaching with, they go, it's just the way I am, and I just go, oh no, it's not. That might be who you are right now today, but that's not who you have to be. That's not who you are, especially if you don't like it.
We've talked a lot about that it is in the moments of decision that your
Mhm.
destiny is shaped, and the power of deciding.
Yes.
Talk us through some of the most powerful practices or tools or strategies that you have implemented
Mm.
to be able to create and maintain that resilient mind, that determined mind, that mind that takes action.
Okay, the number one thing that I do every day, every single day, is I call it purposeful thinking. I choose my thoughts. Years ago, actually, a pastor taught me this. A pastor grabbed me. He could just see that I was just frustrated and I had all this rage, all this stuff inside of me, and he grabbed me and he just hugged. He started to hug me, and I think he knew that at that time, years ago, I wasn't used to being hugged. Right, I was really uncomfortable. I had this, just lostness about me, and I remember he would grab me and he would hug me, and he'd tell me, keep coming back, right? So keep doing what you're doing to grow, like we talked about. And then he said, learn to quiet your mind. That's what he said that shifted me. He goes, learn to quiet your mind and soak in prayer. And what that has developed for me is it took me 2 years to actually understand that my mind running like this, I have the control. And I tried to calm down, and calm my mind, just like he said, and soak in prayer, which to me is meditation, right? I always say, when we're praying, we're talking to God. When we're meditating, we're listening. So,
So
uh,
powerful.
yeah.
Say that one more time. I want to make sure that the audience caught that, because that is a hugely powerful distinction.
And it's 100% true. When we're praying, we're talking to God. When we're meditating, we're listening. That's what came to be, and I think that's why the pastor told me, quiet your mind, learn to quiet your mind, because then I can hear from above. I can hear the lessons, the understandings, the things that I need to learn. Going back to the tool that I used to learn to quiet my mind, because it was very difficult. It's not easy. I mean, most people don't understand that you can control what you think all the time. There'll be thoughts that pop, but you can control. You can say stop, and you can control it. What I had to do when I first started to meditate, learning to quiet my mind, is I had to think of one thing, because to lay there and try and think of nothing for me was impossible. I could not lie there and just think of nothing. My mind would just run, 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 run. So what I started to do is think of one item, right? And it could be anything. It could be an orange. It could be an apple. Just think of one thing over and over, orange, 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 orange. And what happens is you start thinking about that one thing, and everything else that's going like this in your mind goes away. And you're just thinking about one thing. With breath work, deep breaths in your nose, deep breaths out of your mouth. With breath work, your body will calm. You'll start thinking about the one thing, and then you will go into a quiet mind. And in that quiet mind is where you can choose your thoughts, right? You can say, I'm going to have a good day. You can say, I'm not angry. You can choose, I always say, every day in every way, things are getting better and better. Every
Yeah.
day, every way, things are getting better and better. Depending on your circumstance, you can talk and speak and think what you want to do. So, like I said, I do that every day. So as soon as I wake up, as soon as I'm conscious, before I even open my eyes, my mind will start to run. What did I not do yesterday that I should have? What do I need to do today? I instantly stop. I picture a red stop sign, stop. What am I grateful for? What do I want?
Yes.
I start to choose my thoughts. The next thing I know, I mean, again, I do this every day. I can remember this morning I'm laying in bed, and the next thing I know, I'm laying there with a big smile on my face, just in this calm, peace state. And then I get out of bed in a calm, peace state. I do not pick up my phone. I do not pick up my phone for at least an hour. I get up, I drink a room temperature glass of water. If I have some lemon, I'll shoot some lemon in there. I'll drink it, and I'll move. I'll walk around, right? Even if I do the dishes in the morning, or I'll find something to do, I'll walk around in the morning for about half an hour or so. I started my day in this great gratefulness, happy, choosing my thoughts. I got some water. I'm walking around. My metabolism is moving, and it's the start of my day. It creates an amazing day. That's the main tool that I use on a daily basis.
That's so powerful because you are designing your day. You're not just waking up and reacting,
Yes.
right? Which is essentially what happens if your eyes open and you grabbed your phone.
Hmm.
You'll
Yeah.
instantly see the million emails that have come
Yeah.
in overnight, all the fires that you need to put out. And from that point, you're instantly in reaction mode. You're
Yes.
you're behind the eight ball and it feels overwhelming and it can snowball. So I love the fact your eyes open, you practice gratitude, you are intentional
Hmm.
about directing your thoughts and directing your emotions, because
Yes.
the amazing thing about gratitude is it's not only a thought, it's an emotion as well,
Mm.
because when you
Yeah.
think about what you're grateful for, there's a biochemical
Yes.
response that happens, so your physiology actually changes.
Yeah.
So you feel grateful.
Yes.
It's amazing, and then I love the fact that you move into hydration. Our
Hmm.
body is primarily water,
Yes.
and so hydrating is going to allow you to make better decisions. It's going to allow you to have more clarity. It's going to allow you to uh, set your metabolism up
Hmm.
for success. And then I love that you move into movement, right?
Yeah.
Again, you're starting essentially activating your physiology. And then
Yes.
from that point, you are the master of your ship for the
Hmm.
day. It's a
Yep.
lot harder to get knocked off course, right?
Yep.
It's a lot harder to get knocked off of that emotional stability
Hmm.
when your physiology is aligned with that.
Perfect. I love it. I mean, when you talk and you're explaining, I mean, it gets me excited because you understand these things, and we can pass these messages on, and people can hear them and understand them and practice them. Right? Make a decision to practice them. Things will change. Things will definitely change. And because we've both experienced these things and we've done the work, it sounds like it's just simple. It does take work. So I encourage people to do the work. Don't think that one day you're going to wake up and go, oh, happy thoughts, and everything's going to be perfect. You're probably going to wake up, if you've never done this, and try and think happy thoughts, and the negative stuff you're usually thinking about is going to just overwhelm it, right?
Yeah.
And maybe on another call sometime we get into the neurology of all that. But that's the uncomfortable, right? It's neurons. It's taking the path of least resistance. There's a lot going on up here, right? So when you try to change, or when you are changing, you're going to feel uncomfortable a lot of times. You may not even know what's going on. You might go, I don't know what's going on, but I just feel weird. It's internal. Things are happening. Things are shifting. And that's the good part. When things start to shift and you're uncomfortable, that means you're changing. So it's a
Yeah.
good thing.
I'm a big fan of the sticky note.
Yeah.
To your point, it is a practice.
Yeah.
It's a habit that you're building. It's a muscle that you're conditioning.
Yeah.
It's not just innate. None of us came out of the womb knowing, oh, my eyes are going to open. I'm going to do a gratitude practice. I'm going to hydrate. I'm going to move my body. I'm going to intentionally design my day. I'm not going to pick up my phone. I'm going to create whatever that morning routine is that sets me up for success.
Yeah.
We're not just born knowing that. It
No.
is a practice, it is a muscle we develop and a habit we create day after day after day. So for me, the number one most helpful thing was the sticky note. I would put sticky notes all over the place to remind me
Yeah.
to check in, to remind me to hydrate,
Yeah.
to I get so busy during the day, I often forget to eat. So I have reminders on my phone that pop up throughout
Oh,
the
wow.
day that say, nourish yourself, hydrate,
Yeah.
move,
Yeah.
step away from the computer, go take a walk. So there are these incredible tools, everything from sticky notes to reminders on your phone to apps to
Mm-hmm.
communities. But I love the reminder. Thank you for the reminder that this is a practice that you will develop and that it will seem often foreign.
Yes.
So let's expand on that a little bit. Let's touch on, say, imposter syndrome, or you mentioned those negative thoughts that might creep in and feel a little bit overwhelming. That
Mm.
when we're trying to shift that paradigm, they
Yeah.
go, BS.
Yeah.
Your day is not sunshine and rainbows and roses, and you're not, you're
Yeah.
not whatever your affirmation is. So let's talk about how to deal with that inner critic or the imposter syndrome.
Mm. Okay, yeah. So I mean, we've touched on a lot of the little tips and tools. So this is great to lead right into where we've actually come from. The easy word is to practice, but the the thing about I had mentioned earlier, as a man thinketh, so is he, so is she. It goes for everybody. Uh, the reason that when we start to feel uncomfortable, we start to change is because it's what's in our heart already, right? What's starting our subconscious, what's in our heart is I do the A, B, and C. When I start doing, 1, 2, and 3 instead of A, B, and C, and here we're going, wait a second, this is uncomfortable. There's something wrong with that. If we recognize it, then it'll help us continue to go, no, I'm going to continue to do the A, B, and C. And I mentioned a little bit about neurology, what it is, and I wish I had something to draw it out, but we have millions of all these neurons firing in our brain and all these things happening. And if you just picture when if we have these two neurons and we learn something new, there's a connection between them, right? And there's billions of these in our brains, but we have this connection of them. And as we learn something new, good or bad, and we practice whatever that new thought is, that it becomes a habit, it gets really thick. It's a solid part of who we are, a core value for us. Now, if it's a negative and it's not something we should be doing and we want to change it, all of a sudden we got this new thought, right? I wanted to make a decision. I wanted to change my life. But the connection is so thin when I try to go to that path, the path of least resistance, it's easier to go back to the old path because it's such a solid path. I've been doing it for years. I got this new little tiny thin path that I'm trying to become, but it's really hard. So we have to keep practicing and practicing and paying attention until this new habit is the solid one, and this other one kind of thins out because we don't do that as much anymore. So that's where the shift happens, scientifically in our brain. Is there's a shift from one habit to another, and it's work because naturally human beings, we want to take the path of least, I mean, everything naturally on the earth, look at rivers and lakes and everything else, we take the path of least resistance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also important to touch on when we are developing these new muscles, when we are creating new neural pathways, when we are building new habits,
Yeah.
when we have decided to make a change and then are practicing to really solidify and integrate that change. I think it's important to bring up, show yourself some grace.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
practice forgiveness, because
Yeah. Yes.
it's not a one and done, right?
No,
There's
no,
going to
no.
be some days where where you remember to do it, and other days not so much. And some days where you're in that groove and you're in that alignment, and other days where maybe you're triggered.
Mhm.
And I don't know about you, but for me, with my past programming, those triggers then would start a new avalanche of failure or all that negative
Yeah.
chatter,
Yeah.
right? And so, alongside with developing a gratitude practice, I found it really helpful to develop a practice of forgiveness, a
Mhm.
practice of showing myself grace,
Mhm.
a practice of treating myself like my own best friend.
Mhm.
The grace and forgiveness I would show my best friend, to train myself to show it, that same gratitude, that same grace, that same forgiveness, that same understanding, that same patience with myself.
Mhm.
And you know, sticky notes.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And it's true. We're harder on ourselves than we are on other people. Sometimes uh, I've heard somebody say once. They said, we're we will protect our friends against some of the things that we do to ourselves. Like if we
Absolutely.
saw somebody saying or doing something to our friend, we'd be like, you can't do that. But we do it to ourselves. So absolutely practice forgiveness. And I want to touch on what you said. I had mentioned that I do this practice, my morning routine, every morning. It's because we have to, right? Things don't go away. We do have to continue the work. It's ongoing. If I did, even though it took me a couple of years to practice and get to a state where I knew how to quiet my mind, it doesn't mean I'm done. Okay, great. I know how to do it. I'm not going to do it anymore. It's a tool, like a tool you have in your garage. It's a tool, and we have to use these tools. It's not one and done, like you said. It's not like we heal and it's gone forever. It's we understand, right? We accept, right? That whole thing, and we go, okay, now I have these tools, and that's what we're passionate about giving out right now here on this show. We're giving out these tools to utilize them over and over and over again, right? You don't go to the gym one time. Right? You can't go to the gym one time and be like, yeah, I'm in great shape. You got to go to the gym on a regular basis all the time. It's the same thing mentally. It's the same thing emotionally.
Absolutely. So, I want to shift to an ancillary piece of this puzzle that I think is so important for people. So we've talked about ways uh, to shift your mind. We've talked about ways to really create a life that you love. We've talked about ways to become aware and to make the shifts. Um, what are your biggest tips for, in the crazy busyness of life and all of the stresses that we have, and the challenges that do continue to arise?
Mhm.
What are your best practices for self-care, for filling your own cup so that you're able to continue on?
I feel like the best practices really are serving, helping others, because I know, and I mentioned this earlier, when I'm helping others, especially like in the morning, if I have coaching calls or something first thing in the morning, I have such a wonderful day. There's something about giving and helping people, and I think it comes from above again. There's something about giving and helping that just really creates a happy life. When we really pay attention to what makes us happy, it's usually serving others in some form, in some way, right? We always want to help. We want for people to feel better. We want other people to have fun and have great things. And then you talked about us being, what about me though? We have to take care of ourselves too. We have to have self-care, self-love. I think self-love is helping others, and then it's given back to us, right? Spiritually, it's given back to us. So I really enjoy answering your question. I enjoy just helping others, and I think that helps me quite a bit. The morning routine I talked about is a tool. It helps a lot. Um, I do know that sometimes, like I do live in-person events. I'll be so busy with those events the 3 months prior to the event, I may not get up and do my morning routine. I may not have, one-on-one coaching calls with people ready, are set up for those 90 days, because I have so much going on. So if I start to fall during those times, I always make sure that I do have a coach, somebody to call, that I can just say, hey, here's where I'm at, here's what's going on, and get some uplifting words. So as much as I like to give, I also hire the right people to come and help me and lift me when I need it. I have to recognize, right? We pay attention and we recognize when we start to fall, and we can fall for many years I would fall and I would stay in that just darkness for so long. And then as I started to use these tools that we're talking about, and I started to realize that people who have been where I'm at right now and are past it can help me get past it, then it started to shrink. Instead of being down in this darkness forever, I'm just down in this darkness shorter. Because as soon as I recognize it, I can reach out and I can get help.
Absolutely. So it goes back also to the awareness,
Mm-hmm.
to building the community. I love that you said reach out for help.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so many times where people can feel alone,
Mm-hmm.
particularly since the pandemic,
Yeah.
particularly where there were long periods of isolation, long periods where, people were quarantining at home, that first 18 months in particular.
Yes.
And so, it's really no surprise the the rise in prevalence of depression and the increasing suicide rates and all the different mental health struggles that have really been intensified by these long periods of isolation
Yeah.
and feeling like you're alone. So I think it's really, really important, the point that you made, to surround yourself with the right people,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you don't have the money to hire a coach, that's
Yeah.
okay. There's a lot of free communities, there's a lot of free resources out there, but
Mm-hmm.
find the communities that align with you
Mm-hmm.
and then reach out for help.
Yeah.
At the first sign of a dip, reach out, ask for what you need. Know that you are never alone. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we've spent so much of this time talking about the fact that you matter,
Yes. Yes.
that you have a story and that someone needs to hear it. So, if you do find yourself struggling, whether that's uh, with mental health or in any other aspect of life, know that you're not alone. We're all
Yeah.
on this human journey. We're all divine beings having a human experience,
Yes.
and you matter. Your voice matters. Your experiences matter, and someone in the world needs you. So find someone that can support you and reach out
Yeah.
to them.
Absolutely.
So how can people find you? How can they connect with you and get into your circles?
All right. Well, I have a couple of different websites. My personal branding is Raul Lopez Jr. I am a junior. Raul Lopez is a very common name. So if you key in Raul Lopez, you'll find a million different Rauls. But I've branded Raul Lopez Jr. So if you Google that, you'll find me. But I have my personal website is raullopezonline.com. And then I have my Tag Talks website, tagtalks.org. I'm easy to get access to. I always put on there, send me a personal message, and you can send me an email immediately on any of my websites.
Amazing. So I highly recommend that you guys connect with Raul. He is incredible, as you can tell. So, Raul, as we start to wrap up here, let's imagine that you have come to the end of your life best lived.
Mm,
You've left it all on the table.
mhm.
What do you want to be remembered for? What do you want them to say about you?
Well, there's two answers to that question. One, I kind of mentioned earlier. Even if they don't know my name, if they go, I remember this guy said, and it changes their life, and they take that and they teach other people, and it changes their lives, and on, I'm happy with that. Um, if someone's going to mention my name and they go, that guy Raul, I was incarcerated, and he came in, and he sat with me, and he helped me change my life. And today, my kids don't even think about. They're not in a lifestyle where they'll ever go incarcerated. They're not lost. They understand their emotions. I've taught them to express it. That would be the ideal God-given place to be.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so it is. I
Yes.
know that countless parents will be having that thought
Amen.
where their kids never have to worry
Yeah.
because of the seeds that you planted.
Mm, thank you.
Mm,
And so it is.
and so it is.
Yes.
So before we leave today, is there anything else that you would like to share? Any parting words?
I think based on our conversation, being self-aware, making that decision, that commitment, knowing that you can change and that there are people out there who want to help you, is a primary message that we have for you here. We have all experienced hard times. No one has not experienced a hard time in their life, and we've all made it through them because we're here today. You're watching today. We're here talking today. So you've made it to today. If you continue to have problems, reach out, understand where you're at, take these lessons and some of these tools that we've offered and put them into use. And if you need help, ask somebody for help.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. Again, connect with Raul, become part of his world, get into his communities. It is an amazing, amazing gift. What you do, what you share, how you show up in the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ellie. I appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Till next time.
All right. Bye-bye.